always had a soft spot for creature features. It doesn't really matter what the creature is. A giant spider, killer crocodile, shark, snake, giant worm living under the desert, whatever the hell that thing was in the relic. If there's something out there eating people, chances are I'll probably watch it. But most of the time, there's a certain comfort in knowing that none of this shit is actually real. There probably isn't a 20-foot crocodile waiting for you in the lake. You're probably not going to get eaten by a giant spider. And despite what Jaws taught an entire generation, the shark probably isn't personally hunting you. Well, unless it's the shark from Jaws 4: The Revenge. God, that movie was ass.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
But every once in a while, you get a story where the monster actually existed. In 1898, during the construction of a railway in what is now Kenya, 2 lions began attacking the workers building a bridge over the Tsavo River. And over the following months, those lions would become the stuff of nightmares. They attacked camps, dragged men from their tents, and killed enough people that more than a century later, we're still arguing over exactly how many victims there actually were. Which of course meant that sooner or later, Hollywood was going to look at this horrifying true story and say, yeah, but what if we made it a cheap popcorn flick? Throw in Val Kilmer, Michael Douglas, a ridiculous amount of firepower, and 2 lions that basically behave like the velociraptors from Jurassic Park, and you've got a movie that's part historical drama, part adventure movie, and part old-fashioned creature feature. Except this time, the monsters were real. In 1898, Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson was appointed to oversee the construction of a bridge over the Tsavo River. However, from the moment he arrived, things went south fairly quickly. Lion attacks began almost immediately. The African and Indian workers building the railway were being killed off one by one. Men could be heard being dragged from their tents in the middle of the night. It was like Jason Voorhees made himself home in Africa and wasn't happy they were building a bridge over his river. Depending on who you listen to, the death toll varies pretty dramatically. Patterson would later claim the lions killed as many as 135 men, though modern estimates put that number much lower. Either way, that's still a whole lot of people being eaten by a couple cats. And had it not been for Patterson and his experience hunting tigers, that number could have been even higher. Patterson would go on to detail these amazing events in his semi-autobiographical book, The Man Eaters of Tsavo. The events written within the pages of his book would become something that would be highly debated for years to come. However, it was perfect fodder for a Hollywood movie. 1952 would see the release of Bwana Devil, the first adaptation of Patterson's amazing encounters with the man-eating lions. Now, the movie honestly isn't very good, but it does star Robert Stack of Unsolved Mysteries fame, so that's gotta account for something, right? It does hold some historical significance, as it was the first feature-length 3D movie in color, and it was responsible for kickstarting the 3D craze of the 1950s. There was also a British film from 1959 called The Killers of Kilimanjaro that I don't really recommend. I mean, unless of course you want to see an elephant actually get killed on screen, which I definitely didn't. By the end of the 1980s, writer William Goldman, known for movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, and The Princess Bride, had read Patterson's book and thought it would make the perfect vehicle for a movie. In 1989, he pitched the story to Paramount Studios, calling it a cross between Lawrence of Arabia and Jaws. Paramount liked the idea, but weren't willing to do it without a big star. The studio tossed out 3 names: Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, and Tom Cruise. While the idea was floated to Mel Gibson, he turned the movie down. Kevin Costner showed interest, but became a bit annoyed when he realized Paramount was actually just using him to get to Tom Cruise, so he dropped out. And unfortunately for Paramount, Tom Cruise simply wasn't interested. For years, the project seemed to be dead. However, it was Michael Douglas and his production company Constellation Films that would bring the script back to life. Douglas and producing partner Steven Ruther would strike a deal with Paramount to produce 4 films, though of the 4, only 3 would actually make it to the big screen: Sabrina, The Rainmaker, and most importantly, The Ghost in the Darkness. With Douglas and Ruther in control of the project, they brought along director Stephen Hopkins, a man who began as a music video director but would go on to direct A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and one of my personal favorites, Predator 2. I mean, you've got a movie with Danny Glover, Gary Busey, and Bill Paxton? That's f***ing awesome.
He's on safari. Lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my.
With much of Hollywood's male leads not interested in the movie, the studio set its sights on Val Kilmer. Now, at the time, Kilmer was in the height of his career, appearing in high-profile movies like Batman Forever, Heat, and The Island of Dr. Moreau, one after the other. Now, say what you will about the quality of some of these films, but there's no denying that starring in each of these was considered a big deal at the time. Look, I'm just gonna say it, but he's a great Batman, stuck in a not-so-great movie. However, doing these movies one after the other, and especially coming straight from The Island of Dr. Moreau, which had a notoriously troubled production, right into The Ghost in the Darkness with no break, Val Kilmer was pretty worn out. To make things worse, during the filming of The Island of Dr. Moreau, Kilmer flipped on CNN only to discover his wife, Joanne Whalley, was getting a divorce from him. So if Val's performance feels a little off at times, or his character feels a bit lethargic, there's a good reason for that. With their lead and director figured out, William Goldman was brought back in to make some changes to his script. One of the most notable was a supporting character named Redbeard, a big game hunter from England who would be renamed Remington and would be changed into an American. But who was going to play this Remington? The studio looked at actors like Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins, and Gerard Depardieu, but none of the men seemed interested. It wasn't until the role of Remington had been expanded upon that Michael Douglas thought, maybe I should play Remington. Once Douglas was officially given the role, the movie suddenly began to change. His character needed a bigger backstory, came into the movie much earlier in the script, and was basically Quint from Jaws. It was a big Hollywood star pushing his way in and making the focus more about him than the movie. Goldman wasn't exactly happy with the changes, claiming that he felt they undermined what the character was supposed to be, but who was he to argue with the boss?
Because when you question me, you are saying to me that I don't know what I'm doing.
When filming began, things went swimmingly. And by swimmingly, I mean the shooting location had a torrential downpour and saw more rain than the area had seen in the last 5 years. This flash flooding destroyed the bridge that would get the crew to and from their shooting location. But ironically enough, it didn't destroy the fake bridge built for the movie. Go figure. The worst part about the shoot though were the tensions between stars Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. Now, Val Kilmer didn't exactly have the best reputation. Island of Dr. Moreau replacement director John Frankenheimer allegedly said, "Get that bastard off my set." Batman Forever director Joel Schumacher called him childish and impossible. And conspiracy director Adam Marcus called him the worst human being I've ever known. So it didn't exactly come as a shock when Kilmer and Douglas began to butt heads on set. However, things got so heated that at one point, according to writer William Goldman, Douglas said, "Do you want a career like Eric Roberts?" And also, "Do you want a career like Mickey Rourke? Well, you can have that if you don't shape up." Now, I'm not sure what Eric Roberts and Mickey Rourke did to catch strays, but how dare he besmirch men that have appeared in such classics as Pandora, Fire and Ice, Not Another Church Movie, MMA Cop, Murder at Hollow Creek, and of course, who could forget Mr. Blue Shirt, The Inspiration. Anyway, despite the rain, the fighting, an exhausted Val Kilmer, and Michael Douglas slowly turning his supporting character into Quint from Jaws, they somehow managed to get the movie finished. And after spending years trapped in development hell, The Ghost in the Darkness finally made its way to theaters in 1996. So, was it worth all the trouble? The film begins with Colonel John Henry Patterson, played by Val Kilmer, a military engineer hired on by Robert Beaumont, a rich jackass who wants him to oversee a railway project in Africa. One thing that makes me laugh is Beaumont here thinks he's saving Africa from the Africans. I'm honestly not even sure what the hell that means. But whatever, he's kind of an ass, basically telling Patterson that he can make him and break him. And just to add a little drama to the whole thing, Patterson finds out his wife is pregnant right before he leaves. In reality though, his wife wasn't actually pregnant, but this will help add a little tension later on in the movie. Oh my god, is that Jack the Ripper? Patterson arrives in Africa in record time and meets a man named Angus Starling, basically an assistant given to him by Beaumont.
Anything special about them?
Oh, it's just that they fart through their mouths.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be talking shit about an animal that could bite me in half. When the men reach the station, Patterson meets Samuel, the Kenyan foreman, and I'm not sure all the men trust Patterson. Either that or they know of his reputation behind the scenes. Meanwhile, in the makeshift hospital, it seems like the men are coming down with malaria or something. For Patterson's sake, I sure hope it isn't tuberculosis. Not only are the men getting sick, but they're also being attacked by lions? But don't worry about that. Patterson has just what the doctor ordered for lions, a high-powered hunting rifle. Angus is like, I'm kind of scared of my own shadow, but could I come tag along? Oh no, I've seen Jurassic Park enough times to know where this is going. Well, damn, the lion thing's been sorted out. Not sure what we're gonna do for the other 90 minutes. I guess we could practice our balance board? And this is where things not only get a little spooky, but you can really see the Jaws influence starting to creep in. Like how the grass moves almost like the waves in the ocean, or how you can just barely make out the lion creeping amongst it. I swear you could just slap a dorsal fin on it and it's no different than a shark gliding through the water. I'm not sure why my legally sourced copy is in German, but 7 weeks later, man, I bet these guys sleep like babies, you know, when they're not being eaten by lions. Alright guys, now's not the time to compare the size of the fish you just caught. Meanwhile, Bruce the shark isn't too happy about the bridge they're building. Samuel hands Patterson a necklace made from the claws of the lion he killed, but doesn't that belong to Black Panther? Oh no, not Mahina! And after he just caught that big fish. Being dragged out of your tent in the middle of the night by a massive lion has gotta be up there with one of the most terrifying things you could experience. The men start freaking out because the lion didn't just eat him, but it skinned him first. So either it's a lion or it's the goddamn predator. Another night goes by and another man winds up dead. Now everyone really starts freaking out because they believe the lion is going to kill them all.
It's too soon for a lion to kill from hunger.
Who says the lion is killing for hunger? Have you ever seen the death and destruction a well-fed house cat can cause? The men decide to build thorn fences around the camp and place a curfew on everyone so they can't leave their tents at night. Not really sure how that will help considering the lion likes to pull people from their tents. Also, reading a letter by yourself seems kind of risky when there's a massive lion stalking nearby. The lion has given up any pretense of being stealthy at this point, but why worry? Patterson's already killed one lion, what's another? I think now would be a great time to shoot this thing though, no? Good lord, there's two! And what the hell happened to Angus? I think we're gonna need some bigger guns. Hilariously, immediately following the events of the attack, the workers are like, F this shit. And I mean, can you blame them? Well, they would have left had Patterson not called them all chickens. I don't think calling out my manhood would be enough to make me stick around when there's a massive lion killing everyone. Beaumont shows up so he can be a real pain in the ass and ask why Angus is dead.
The ghost and the darkness have come.
In English.
Clean out your damn ears, man. He said the ghost and the darkness have come. What, does he need to spell it out for you too? One of the most interesting moments comes when Patterson refers to the lions as being not like lions. It adds an almost supernatural element to them and gives them more personality beyond just being a couple of big hungry cats. We also learn the lions have killed close to 30 men so far, which I think a few 80s slashers could take a few notes from. Beaumont is all bitchy because the bridge is taking too long, but I mean, that's gonna happen when all the workers are being devoured.
I don't care about the 30 dead. I care about my knighthood.
This is no time for a dick measuring contest. That time was days ago before Mahina was killed. Another Jaws influence can be seen in how Beaumont treats Patterson and the workers. Is he no different than the mayor that wanted to keep the beaches open despite numerous shark attacks? Beaumont just wants the bridge open, the mayor wanted the beaches open, and apparently neither man considered being fucking eaten as a valid excuse for the delays. Patterson concocts an insane plan where they will trap at least one of the lions inside a boxcar with some armed Indian men behind some protective bars that will shoot the beast. What's even more insane is that this apparently actually happened, and I'm sure it'll work out well for everyone. The lion goes apeshit almost immediately. Lion shit? But this whole thing plays out like a comedy of errors. Not only do the men not shoot the massive animal right in front of them, but they also start a fire and end up freeing the beast. As stupid as this is also apparently how it went down in real life. Well, except for the fire. The men were so scared that they just started firing wildly, eventually freeing the lion. This should have been expected though, because Patterson did say this plan never worked in the past.
And it worked. In point of fact, it didn't. But I'm convinced the theory is sound.
Patterson nearly has a full-on mutiny on his hands, as understandably everyone is dying, but ain't no mutiny happening on Remington's watch. Oh, and who's Remington, you're asking? Just some made-up character for the movie. Douglas's character was loosely based on Charles Henry Ryall, a railway police superintendent and big game hunter who had his own encounter with a man-eating lion a couple years after the events at Tsavo. Ryall actually went looking for the lion, apparently fell asleep inside a railway car while waiting for it, and was promptly dragged out and killed. I guess if they based Remington exactly on him, Michael Douglas wouldn't have had much of a role now, would he? But Remington is basically the Quint of the movie, and was added to turn the second half into more of a buddy adventure, with him and Patterson joining forces to hunt the lions. He also brought some Maasai warriors to help them with the hunt, and definitely not to be used as human bait.
You're still gonna have to build that bridge, so I don't want your men to lose respect for you.
It's very considerate of you.
Well, I'm a very considerate man.
So considerate that he forced the film's writer to expand his character's role and place the spotlight on him. The doctor decides to swap guns with Patterson, giving him a stronger weapon for the hunt. But what if the lions attack the camp while the hunters are all out? Okay, now main cast on one side and the easily disposable on the other. I'm glad it's only taking, 40 men to hunt one lion? Wow, it's a good thing he swapped guns with the doctor before heading out. What if the doctor knew his gun wouldn't work, and that's why he wanted to exchange? For this supposed badass hunter, Remington's aim is pretty shit. Also, the Maasai warriors are taking off because they're like, fuck this. Patterson and Remington begin spreading chunks of meat and blood all around the old hospital in the hopes of drawing the lions in. But is this not like when Brody was chumming the waters for the shark in Jaws? At what point does inspiration become ripoff? Regardless, it seems like it worked, because look who showed up. And does that not sound kind of like the Jaws theme? The lions get real tired of being shot at, so they decide to massacre everyone at the newly built hospital tent. Well, I can't wait to see what their next plan is, because this one failed spectacularly. And nice try, Doctor, but I see you breathing. You're not gonna weasel your way out of the movie that easily. The cut from the massacre to everyone leaving is pretty damn funny, though it did take them long enough to get the hell out of there. Can I ask how Patterson manages to keep his hair so stylish for months on end? Samuel attempts to remind Patterson of the man he is and hands him his necklace. Now, if only it came with a cool vibranium suit. Patterson and Remington decide to take the fight to the lions, which sounds like a terrible idea, since the lions generally play better at home than on the road. Ah yes, a spooky cave. I'm sure there's no massive lions in there. Now, if you could just light my crotch, thanks. Patterson gets spooked by the sounds of some bats, which is kind of ironic. The men discover a pile of bones, and Remington is shocked that 2 cats would kill simply for the hell of it. I see someone's never owned an orange cat before. The men head back to camp and Patterson comes up with another genius idea. Some rickety old platform that he'll sit on or something? Did he not see what the lions did to their hospital?
Oh, Merry Christmas. What? Oh yeah, this is the month.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a new Christmas movie. Think I'll add this one right next to Die Hard. So we're going with the Jurassic Park thing again, eh? Don't worry guys, this rickety platform will protect me from the lions. But good lord, nobody said anything about owls! Patterson fires his pistol at the lion, and would you look at that? Blood. And remember what Arnold Schwarzenegger said in Predator?
Who told you you can eat my cookies?
Damn it, wrong clip! The men continue following the trail of blood in search of the lion, but considering how dark and foggy it is, my balls are nowhere near big enough to be doing something this stupid. Let's f***ing go! Although I do feel a bit bad considering you can hear the other lion crying off in the distance. With one of the lions dead, everyone gets right back to work. Even Patterson's wife has come to see him, and she's brought little John Jr. Aww. What a nice way of capping off this horrific movie about killer lions. Good lord! Oh thank god, it was all just a horrible nightmare. What isn't a horrible nightmare, however, is Remington is killed off screen by the other lion. Like we don't even get to see it happen. Or have a fun moment like with Robert Muldoon from Jurassic Park. Even Quint was eaten by the shark on camera. It honestly feels like Michael Douglas just got bored and said, you know what, I don't really feel like being in this movie anymore. I love how Patterson burns the field after Remington's death, taking away the lion's camouflage and forcing it out into the open. Okay, who put the jump scare there? The lion chases Patterson right up into a tree. Now, lucky for Patterson, lions aren't exactly the best at climbing trees, but it doesn't mean they can't. Can something please just go right for once? Why do I feel bad for the lions? The following day or week or whatever, Patterson gets a new Angus. But let's hope he lives longer than the previous Angus. What, is it my breath? Oh look, it's Patterson's wife. For the love of all that's holy, please don't let another lion attack her. Alright, now we're getting a little too sappy. And yes, we all remember The Lion King. The Ghost in the Darkness is a really fun movie that I wish more people talked about. Is it perfect? No, but it does a great job of feeling like a throwback to the old adventure movies of the 1930s through the 1950s. The acting is decent for the most part, though Douglas's character feels out of place at times. He almost feels too modern for the time period in which the movie is set. The lions are fantastic and at times terrifying, though the effects have mixed results. I do appreciate that they used actual lions though, which I think does help elevate the movie, and there are a few very brief uses of animatronic lions built by Stan Winston's team, though they are blink and you'll miss them shots. What I found funny were the 2 main lions used in the movie actually came from the Bowmanville Zoo in Clarington, Ontario, Canada. Because if there's one thing Canada is known for, it's obviously our lions. The movie just looks gorgeous, and actually sort of makes me wish I was in Africa. Just, you know, without the heat, the bugs, the lions, you know, all that stuff. As far as what actually happened and what was in the movie, it's surprisingly close to Patterson's account. Patterson mostly hunted the lions by himself, with Remington being created to give him somebody to play off of. What's funny is that despite Michael Douglas expanding the character and giving him this big charismatic presence, test audiences apparently still ranked the lions first, Patterson second, and Remington third. Even the lions upstaged Michael Douglas. Another questionable part of Patterson's story is the cave filled with the human remains. The cave was rediscovered in the late 90s, but researchers couldn't find evidence of the massive collection of remains Patterson described. And then there's probably the most obvious change, the lions themselves. Real male Tsavo lions actually don't have massive manes. But let's be honest, when most people picture a lion, that's what they picture. Plus with the manes, they just look so much cooler. And if you ever want to see the actual Ghost and Darkness, both lions are still on display at the Field Museum in Chicago. Though they look a little smaller today because Patterson originally had their skins turned into rugs, and the museum later had to completely reconstruct them. Imagine killing two of the most infamous man-eating lions in history and thinking, yeah, these would really tie the room together. This was one of those movies we rented quite a bit during the 90s. What's weird is just 2 years prior I was sitting there, eating my Frosted Flakes, singing Hakuna Matata with Timon and Pumbaa, then 2 years later I was watching Simba feast on some dude's insides. I had a very weird childhood. When the movie came out, reviews were pretty mixed, with some critics absolutely hating it. Even everyone's favorite Roger Ebert had some choice words for it.
Boy, Gene, this one is on my list of the worst movies of the year. I was shocked by this movie, and there's one scene in particular I'm going to tell you, and that's when Kilmer builds that rickety little platform and stands up on top of it so that when the lion comes, he can shoot him, and then he's knocked off the platform by a big bird.
Although, despite the mixed reviews, the movie did manage to win an Oscar for sound editing, so I guess they can thank the lions for that. However, in more recent years, I think people have started to come around on it. It's a fun throwback to an older generation of filmmaking. It's fun, it's scary, and it's got some big-ass lions. What's not to like? If you haven't seen the movie, then I recommend you checking it out. But if you have seen it, then what do you think about the Ghost and the Darkness? Anyways, that is all for today. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for the support, and of course, stay spooky. Huge thanks to all my channel members. You're the real MVPs of the Spooky Squad. Your support helps keep the lights flickering and the monsters fed. If you'd like to join up and help support the channel, check out the join button below. But no pressure, just watching and liking helps a ton too.